Hey everybody, this is Lincoln's Mullet. I'm talking about a design proposal I have for a dynamic campaign in Ultimate General Civil War. Um, this is just my own doing. I did it on my own. I love Ultimate General Civil War. Played Ultimate General Gettysburg quite a bit, and beta tested this one. And I love the current campaign. Don't get me wrong, the current campaign as it is, which isn't even finished yet, is an amazing experience. It's really takes you through the war as it was historically, and put you in the same historical situations as your historical counterparts did when the war was fought. So it's interesting to be faced with the same challenges and the same situations as they were, and play out the war that way. It's really fun experience. But obviously, people love the dynamic free-form campaign that you see in games like Total War. And as any good gamer is, they're never satisfied with what they get, so they always want more. And I'm one of them. So this proposal goes into how a dynamic campaign might work. This is by no means endorsed by the developer or anybody. I'm doing this on my own. I do it for fun. I've done this professionally, working for Stainless Steel Studios. I used to be a scenario designer. I used to do it in my free time for Empire Earth, and then they hired me to do Empires Out of the Modern World, and then I did Rise and Fall, and then I worked a little bit on Iron Lore. So been around, a little bit of this in my blood, for many years. So this is just something I enjoy doing, whether it's used or not. That'd be great, but it's just fun to do. I think it'd be great for the game to have a dynamic campaign, and hopefully this video kind of sparks some discussion on it and what would go into it. And part of designing something like this, or trying to design something like this, is first and foremost trying to put yourself in the shoes of the developer. The Game Labs isn't EA with an army of programmers and artists and stuff like that. So they everything they do and add and change probably takes a lot more time and expense to do than the average bear. So designing something like this is beneficial to think about what the engine currently can or can't do, and how much impact it would be on the developer to add a feature or add something that would change the game dramatically. Now, creating a grand campaign where you have multiple armies and supply routes and politics and stuff like that is a completely different game. So I'm not even going to talk about that. There's other games that do that. The purpose of this is to keep the theme where you're still running your own army. You're still commanding your own army. The success and failure is based on your decisions on how you build your army, what you do with that army, and you're kind of ignoring what else is going on in the war like it is now. It's abstracted. The politics and the other battles and stuff, you don't really you don't partake in every single battle. You partake in a lot of battles, but not every single one. So that part's abstracted. You get men and gold for winning. Where does it come from? How much do you have? It's just an abstraction to allow you to play what the developers have designed, which is what we have currently. So the dynamic campaign would add, obviously add some programming, because the biggest change would be with the main map. And since you're controlling only one army, it would have to be in a very specific theater. So battles like Shiloh and Chickamauga wouldn't be in the cards. You'd have to be in the area around Washington and Richmond. And what we would do here is all the maps that the devs have created or will create that's in this region would be all placed on the map at once and interconnected somehow. With these yellow lines, it shows how you can move about with your army. So you have an army. You see here, CSA armies there, Union armies up north. It goes by turn based, so I have a turn to move my army or rest, and then the Union has a turn to move their army or rest. You have a national morale level, and that goes down. The more idle your army is, it slowly goes down, and obviously having defeats and victories raises or lowers it. And let me go into the next screen here to kind of give us more zoomed in look on how that would look. So let's say I have the CSA army here. The maps themselves are the movement points. So when I move an army, they actually reside in that map. So every time a battle is fought, it's always in a map that's already been made, and you know what map your army is sitting on and defending, or you know which map the enemy army is sitting on and would be defending if you to attack them. So each army gets 1 movement point per turn, or 2 movement points if they passed on their turn or rested. In the above example, I move my CSA army northeast. I want to engage the Union, so I want to move towards them and attack them. But on the Union's turn, they decide to attack me, so I miscalculated, or maybe they're being a lot more bolder than they should be. I don't know, but now they're attacking me. I'm in the map that's currently shown between the CSA army and the Union army. It's a side battle, which is basically would be a generic map that's available. So also each map has an indicator of whether it generally favors defense or offense. So you can kind of maneuver your army in positions to get at the enemy or force the enemy to attack you in better defense situations. Now there's variables that will be involved that might put you in positions that you don't really care to be in. So in this case, I moved my CS army up to the side battle map. I had to move it there to approach the Union, but that also puts me in a poor defensive position. So when the Union attacks me, I'm going to be defending on a map that's probably that doesn't have a lot of good coverage or good positions to defend. So when a battle loads up, we go to a familiar screen, which is the battle map. Now all these colored lines here indicate this is what would be different with how it currently works. All these colored lines indicate one of 8 possible setups for attack or defense on this map. It'd be randomized. You wouldn't know what this is until you got to this screen. And this would allow armies to battle over the same map multiple times, but with completely different setups each time. So the first time maybe you fight on this map, the map's divided by the red line, which means you would start as defenders in the middle, and then on the left and bottom side, and the attackers would be coming up from the north and the right side. Or the next time you fight it, it's the opposite, or maybe it's split by the purple line, so they're attacking from the south and I'm defending from the north. So every time this map's loaded for combat, the attacker and defender could start on any angle or side of this map, and this opens up the map to completely different situations for attack or defense. Would Antietam be the same battle if the Confederates were defending on the east side of the river, and the Union was attacking from the west side? The flow of the battle may be completely different. So and further with this new map is that you have additional core slots to drop in here. So let's say for defense, I'm defending because the Union's attacked me. Now let's say it's divided by this purple line. So let's say it's divided by loads up. I'm defending from the south. They're attacking from the north. Now those yellow boxes along the edges, those are deployment zones where additional corps can enter the battle. So you see below the purple line, I have 2 yellow deployment zones on each side and 2 on the bottom. And you can see the left of those and bottom of those, you can see corps slots where I can drag and drop a corps to go in there. So if I'm defending, I have 1 corps I can drop in the middle of the map. So this is where I set up my defenses. The corps starts there. That big yellow box is my deployment zone. Or maybe it's smaller, maybe it doesn't have to be that big, but the point is your deployment, you have 1 corps you can deploy in the middle of the map. that kind of has a window once the battle starts to figure out where your defense is going to be set up. Now, knowing that I'm starting on the southern half of the map, I know that the enemy is going to attack from the northern half of the map, so I can set up my defense in anticipation of at least their general direction where they're going to come from. But so with these 4 core slots on the outside of the map, so let's say I have another core I can place, and I place it on the bottom right arrow spot. I drop it down there, and then I go to start the map. So now I know in this battle I'm gonna have 2 core, because I have one in the middle I have to put in for the main defense, and then I have one on the outside that's going to enter the battle at some point, which we'll get into later. But there's variables that determine when that core shows up, how much of that core arrives and when, and if it even shows up. So you place down your cores. I want my cores in there, and then we start the battle. So this map isn't quite set up the same way. This is a diagonally set up map where the enemy's attacking from the northwest and I'm defending the southeast. But the example here is this initial defensive deployment zone's in the middle. So when the battle first begins, I place my units down here, and I know the enemy is attacking from the west and the north. So even in this picture here, I might set up my defenses just like this, because I know this is generally where the enemy is going to come from. But because it's not scripted, because I can't replay this map again and get the same result, I have to rely more on scouting. Maybe my recon skill becomes more important to determine exactly when enemy cores enter the map and where they are, and their disposition and strength and all that stuff. So let's say I set up along behind this river here, and the main cores are coming at me. They're attacking across the river like this. So the enemy has decided to put, the enemy AI put 2 cores on their outside. As you can see at the top, with it says delayed until second day. You can see that one, and on the one on the left it says delayed 4 hours. So these are the variables that you don't know. So this is the theory. This allows you to be in complete control and judgment of how you want to use your army, how much you want to commit, how long you want to commit it, and whether you feel like you have an advantage, and how long that advantage is going to be in play for. So that's where scouting and seeing where your army is, and engaging piecemeal, and seeing, instead of committing your entire army in one direction and then getting flanked. So in this situation here, I have this defensive line set up behind the river, but this northern enemy course is delayed until second day, so I'm lucky in that regard. But let's say it wasn't delayed. Maybe it came in here shortly after the battle started, and I already committed my whole line here to defending this river. Well, they're going to come up. They're coming up around my flank now, and my scouts, I put some scouts over there, maybe some skirmishers, to kind of make sure I'm not being surprised with a massive flanking attack. And I see that the second corps is coming in the battle. They're 12,000 man strong, and I'm like, oh my God, how am I going to do this? I'm defending this river. I don't really have reserves to come up, but I know I have this second corps down here that I dropped down in the previous map. In this map, I dropped him down on the bottom right, so I know he's coming. But one of the variables is, and maybe there's a message or something, or maybe you don't get a message, I don't know, or maybe it's based on your officer personality. There's some variable involved here that your second corps that you've chosen to be part of this battle does not immediately show up for the battle. What that variable is, and if there's ways to improve it so it's more, they arrive more on time, I don't know. But the point is, it can't be predictable. If you have additional corps that you commit to the battle, only the first corps for each army should appear immediately. So my defensive corps is obviously going to be there, and the first corps of the attacking player will always be available immediately. What happens after that should be variable, should be different factors that are involved. So in my case, I have this corps down here. So I have another corps down here. I have 7 brigades, 3 artillery, and one cavalry. But only 4 brigades arrive, and they're 6 hours late. So maybe if this northern corps of the enemy attacked earlier, I would have been in a really bad position. But 6 hours later, these 4 brigades show up, and I'm like, oh, thank God they're finally here. I can put them in to protect my flank. Then I'm thinking, well, where the hell's the rest of my corps? I got 3 more brigades plus 3 cannon and my cavalry. I mean, how much longer am I have to wait here for these next brigades to show up? Maybe the army commander is keeping them in reserve. Maybe they're moving around somewhere else. Maybe they show up on a different spot on the map, one of these other 3 arrows that I wasn't planning on. Maybe the corps commander decided to try to flank around. Some sort of unpredictability that has to do with your corps commander's ability to get into the battle. This will affect your decision making in the current battle as it's raging. You got this other corps here, and if this other corps shows up, you're going to be in a real good position. But right now, you're not in a good position. The enemy's second corps has arrived, and they're committing themselves to the battle. So what do? Do you stand and fight longer, or do you start pulling back? So in this case, you start pulling back. You're outnumbered. You pull back from the river and try to find better defensive positions while you hope for your second corps to arrive. Maybe your second corps, then the rest of the army fully arrives, and you have better positions. You're on a hill. You're in covered area. The enemy's exhausted. So now you feel like, okay, now I can stand up and fight again. I'm going to stay in this battle. Or maybe the rest of your corps doesn't show up, or maybe they're taking so long you can't chance anymore. You say, you know what? If I stay here any longer and I don't get the rest of this corps in here, I'm going to lose this battle. I can see it happening right now. I'm going to break. So you decided that moment to either stand and fight and hope for a miracle, or to pull your forces back and save them, because it'll be important for your next battle. You have this army now in a dynamic campaign that's being affected by the battles. And so one of the other factors that comes with winning or losing is that reputation would have to be scaled with the army composition on this map. So one of the examples I put here is so the importance of a battle in the dynamic campaign can be subjective. So you could have a battle with 10,000 men, or you can have a battle with 75,000 men. But they're all important, right? I mean, you might have this amazing battle with only 10,000 men, and a rout with a battle with 75,000 men. So a simple scale would need to be created to base how much reputation you receive or lose in any given battle. So you'd have to factor in different elements to determine whether you engaged in a small, medium, or large battle, and how much reputation you receive or lose for that battle. So in this way, if you lose 3,000 of your army and the enemy loses 6,000, this will be a bigger deal if the total combined strength of forces were 15,000. If total combined strength were 50,000 and the same kill-loss numbers existed for this battle, it would have less impact on your reputation going up or down, since it's a much smaller portion of the total army. Victory or defeat, regardless of total combined forces, will always grant a significant base reputation increase or decrease due to its effect on national morale. So a loss is a loss. So if you go in that battle I just exampled here, and early on you see the enemy corps are getting an early advantage, and they're turning your flanks, and your second corps hasn't arrived yet, and you're like, this is not going well. I don't have good defensive positions to fall back on. I don't know how many more men are coming in and when. So I'm gonna call it a day. I'm gonna take my 2,000 or 3,000 losses out of 20,000 I have here, and fight another day at a different location. So you pull back. A lot of troops are committed. However, you decide early on to pull back. So this would make sure that you still it's still considered a loss because you're pulling out, you're retreating, you've taken some casualties, pulling out. So that's still considered a loss. National morale takes a bit of a hit, and that's also dependent on how big of a battle and how big of a victory or defeat is. And this is where casualties factor in. Whereas current campaign, casualties aren't really a factor to worry about, other than your ability to rebuild your army. But for the AI, when they lose a lot of men, it doesn't really carry over to the next battle. So in a dynamic campaign, these things will be vastly important. The base increase or decrease of reputation for a win or loss will also ensure the player attempts to play out every battle before deciding it's better to take the reputation loss and withdraw rather than suffer major casualties. So the point is, when you engage in a battle, you don't just automatically withdraw because you feel like, oh, maybe this map isn't right, I don't really feel like fighting on this map. If you withdraw early, you're still going to take a reputation loss, you're still going to have a national morale hit. So it's always beneficial to try to play it out and see where the battle develops, how it forms, if it's going in your favor, it's not going in your favor, before withdrawing, because automatic withdrawing will be a will be a loss that'll affect your reputation, your national morale. So you're really going to be avoiding doing that. You're going to really try and see how this battle is going to, every battle you engage in, you're going to want to see how it plays out. So the element this element is key to providing the player with total overall control over their army and all the consequences of the decisions. In fact, this will provide a unique gaming experience where the personality of the player himself will dictate his actions in the battle. In other words, your real-life Pope or Longstreet, and how you commit or don't commit all of your forces. Are you hesitant? Are you aggressive? Do you prefer to attack piecemeal before committing your entire army? Or you attack all at once and hope the enemy doesn't flank you with another corps halfway through the battle? Since there's no scripting in each battle, the player will constantly weigh the value of fighting that battle as long as possible versus recognizing when it's better to withdraw entirely and take the reputation loss. Now, you can't do that. So obviously, if you start a battle and you immediately want to withdraw, you can do that. But do that too many times, you're going to lose a lot of reputation. You lose a lot of national morale. With the variable factors involved in how each battle plays out, no two battles will ever play out the same, and therefore no player decision will ever be the same. And because there are no other armies to control or rely on, the success of the war is entirely dependent on every decision you make, and that goes for your own army composition. Even a small battle can develop into a very large battle, depending on how many corps involved and how long you decide to fight. And because the key with this kind of map here is to make sure that you're always in orbit of each other, and trying to attack on your terms, instead of just kind of floating around and waiting until you have the most maximum sized army as possible before attacking. There should be an incentive always to attack. You want to destroy your army, and one of those ways is with national morale. So whenever you rest your army, you can recover more men, you can rebuild more, but you take a national morale hit. And also, I mentioned this earlier, but the game is on a timeline, so each turn represents 3 months worth of real time. Maybe it's 4 months, whatever it ends up working out to, with the game ending in April 1865, or prematurely through destruction of the enemy army or your own army. Each turn that you rest, you receive additional men and gold. For each battle result, whether win, lose, or draw, you receive men and gold just as it works now. But the determination of how much men and gold you receive in a given battle result will be based on how much reputation you gain from the result, and that's based off of this little formula down here. So, a major battle with a lot of casualties on the enemy side, gives you a lot more reputation, where you can still get reputation on a smaller battle, where you still win. So it's a bit of a, it's not a set number where you get 10 reputation or 15 reputation. It's based on different factors, and um, the higher reputation that you get from the battle, the more resources you get. But even when you lose, you still get resources, just like it currently works. That way, you still have something to go on, and maybe there's other variables in there that make sure that the winner just doesn't constantly keep destroying the enemy player. But that's how it would generally work there. I think I was going to talk about something. I totally forgot about it now. Huh. Oh, right. So the point is, when you have two armies on this map, is the goal in the design of the game is to make sure that they're always moving towards each other and always moving towards combat, and having elements to prevent one side or the other from sitting and resting too long. And that's where the variable maps come into play, where a good defensive position, if the Union Army really needs to attack you, or you really need to attack the Union Army, and you need to do it this turn, they may be in really good defensive position, but you're forced to, because of how the war is going, you're really forced to make that move and try to regain your national morale, regain some reputation. So it won't always be in the time and the place that you're choosing, and that would be the point of this grand map portion, is that you're maneuvering your army, but not too far away from the enemy army. You're kind of staying in orbit of each other. So another factor that could increase exploration of more maps would be adding what I call key locations, to ensure battles are spread out as much as possible. Each turn, a random map will offer a bonus to whoever controls a location for 2 turns, or whoever wins a battle in that location. This way, if both armies move to capture at the same time, the immediate victor will receive the bonus and not have to wait for it. So the example is, let's say we go here. Obviously, there'd be way more maps on this screen than I'm currently showing. As just a little example, but let's say Cedar Creek out here. You get an update that, controlling Cedar Creek, you'll get an additional 2,000 Enfield rifles or something like that, or extra 10,000 gold, or whatever it ends up being. Some sort of incentive out there. Some, as a CSA, I'm like, you know what, I could really use those. I'm going to move over there, but the Union's a little bit closer than I am. They only have 2 movements to get there, and I need 3. So I move there. I move west to the side battle map there. The Union Army moves on their turn to Gettysburg. So okay, well, the Union Army wants it too, so they're going to get there first. All right, now my turn. I move up to Chancellorsville. Goes back to their turn. They move to Cedar Creek. And now if I want it, I got to attack them, or if I don't attack, he has to sit on that spot for another turn, and then he automatically gets the reward. But if I choose to attack, if I win, I immediately get the bonus for being on that map. And now, explaining this right now, I realize every move would take 3 months, so it wouldn't really be too realistic if it took you 9 months to move to Cedar Creek from where I'm located now. So that could be something to be tweaked, but that's a minor detail that can be altered. It could be reduced to 1 month or 2 months, or whatever ends up working out on the scale of this grand map. And the ultimate goal of this, obviously, is the destruction of the enemy army. My original idea was maybe having the capitals present, and capturing the capital would be another victory objective, but I feel like that'd be might be a little cheap, and there'd be a way to outmaneuver your army and just slip into Richmond or or DC and then win the battle, which wouldn't be fun. So I think removing the capital element out of it and just focusing on the two armies battling on all these maps, randomized maps, would be more important than allowing this army to move in and capture Washington. I think that part would be abstracted in the sense that if you're beating your opponent to a pulp, or you really destroyed their army, the assumption is that you're able to now move on their capital after doing so, or the other side sues for peace or something like that. So I don't think it'd be a good idea to have the capital as a capturable place, because then if the Union Army and the CSC Army is way here at Cedar Creek, and I happen to move east before the Union Army does and just gets to Washington, D.C. just because of where I'm placed on the map, would be cheesy and would not be fun. So I think, historically, focusing on the destruction of the enemy army would be more important and be a lot more fun, and it would really put the focus on maneuvering on this grand map and choosing when to attack, and trying to put yourself, if you know you need to rest and defend, and the enemy is going to attack you, putting yourself in a good position to defend if they are going to attack. So that's pretty much it. That's the gist of the whole idea here. Obviously, there's a lot of smaller details that need to be ironed out, but the general idea is that the new feature would be, I have a movable. All the maps are located on this screen here. It'd be zoomed in more. It wouldn't be this big grand map here as it is now. It'd be more zoomed in more to the area, and that you can move your army around on it and fight the enemy army. And then this addition here, which would be randomizing the placement of your armies and the direction which they're attacking or defending, would be new as well. And this generic ability to drop cores down on the map and allow them to enter the battle, as it currently does in the game, but it's all scripted right now. But this would be a way to bring up to 5 core to a map and have them enter at different times in different locations, and kind of give that sense that the two armies are slowly coalescing against each other and bringing in reinforcements and trying to outflank. And the core on your left that you're expecting to come in is late, and it's affecting your decision on how to defend here, whether to pull back because your other core behind you came in, so now you can pull back to their position, really solidify yourself across the river. All these things, I think, would create an amazing dynamic environment for the player, where there's no scripting leading you one way or the other, and with your casualties carrying over, the enemy casualties carrying over, and a greater purpose to winning or losing a map, would really put you in a very interesting situation in each battle, and basically you're on your own as a general and deciding on what you want to do and how you want to do it. I think that'd be really cool. So that's the gist of it. So if anybody else has interesting things to add, or say it's a horrible idea, that I do this for fun. I enjoy doing this. Whether it comes to be or not, I don't know. But I hope in some way it might help the development of that, because I would like to see it in the game. It doesn't necessarily have to be this idea. This is just one of many ideas that can be presented, but without completely overhauling the engine and creating a whole new system, this kind of works with what they already use, and it's already in place. So, all right, hope you enjoyed it. Till next time.